In this lesson, we'll be looking at the many ways we can receive and use URL parameters inside of our components. First off, how do we read query parameters from the URL? In this URL, you can see we have a query parameter of page equals 4. And the question is, how do we get access to this value from inside our component? Well, from the template, we can simply write out $route.query.page. This will print out you are on page 4. If we're inside a component, we can write this.route.query.page. Pretty simple. What if we wanted our application to use page as part of the URL? For example, if we had events/4 for page 4, how would we get access then to the page number? Here we could use a route parameter. We define a route parameter inside of our router file by using events/:page. It's that colon there that makes it a route parameter. Then inside this template, we can access this parameter by doing route.params.page. Notice we're using .params, not .query, like we did in our previous example. And this is what our component would print out in our browser. There's nothing wrong with this solution, but ViewRouter in this case is pretty coupled to our component, and there's another way we can solve this without that coupling. In this case, we can use a route parameter with params as props. To do this, we'll specify props equals true inside of our router configuration. What this does is tells ViewRouter to send in our route parameters as component props. So inside the template, we simply specify props page, and page from the URL will get set inside the component, and in this case displayed on the page. To walk through this one more time, if we have a URL with events/4, that 4 gets sent in to our component as a prop, and then gets displayed on the page. And we get you are on page 4. Sometimes we want to be able to configure a component from our router file. To do this, we use something called props object mode. So here's a real simple example. Inside of our router file, we might specify props show extra true. Then inside of our component, we have our template. And you'll see here we're accepting show extra as a prop, and we can use it inside of our template. This would print out our homepage with some extra stuff. And if we wanted to, we could have different paths which map to this component and configure it from the router. Sometimes you might want to transform query parameters. For example, if we had this URL, notice that query parameter of e equals true. In the case of the previous code, we might need to transform it before sending it into our component as a prop. So here we set e equals true, but really we want to send in show extra equals true into our component. So how do we transform that query parameter? In this case, we can use props function mode. So back inside of our router file, we'll write props route show extra route.query.e. You can see here we're creating a new object and setting the show extra property equal to query.e. That gets sent in as a prop using the component you saw in our previous example. That would print out a home page with extra stuff. It's worth mentioning that this object syntax is JavaScript shorthand for a full anonymous function. These two pieces of code do the same thing. I'm showing you this because in big applications, it might be useful to create functions which do more complex transformations. Thanks for watching. In the next lesson, we'll put this knowledge to use and build out pagination in a Vue 3 application.